Hello, are you here to debate?
Hello?
Hello, are you here to debate?
Yes.
All right, one second.
Hello? Hello?
All right, can I just get your name, age, and pronouns, please?
Name is Tana. Age is currently 18, and pronouns are dumb.
Please be somebody.
Pronouns are dumb?
Words work this time low.
Is that what you said?
You know,
Okay,
you can just put he, him, whatever.
Oh, okay. You folded real quick there, Tanner. Anyway, what are you calling to debate about?
I am going to just turn you pro-life real quick.
Sure you will.
I know my arguments.
Okay.
And I know yours.
Okay.
So, I just finished recently watching an old video of you debating somebody on abortion, and your position at that time was before sentience, abortion for any reason, so before like about 24 weeks, and then after about 24 weeks, you can abort it, but like keep the fetus alive. Do you still hold that position?
Yep.
Okay. I agree with you on the keeping the fetus alive after 24 weeks, but I disagree with you on killing the fetus before 24 weeks.
Okay.
So basically, the problem that I'm seeing with your argument is you are kind of valuing pigs more than some human beings.
Yeah, I would value some pigs over some humans, yes. You would too, friend.
Bro really thinks he can turn people
no, I would not.
Then let me ask you a question. If you had to choose, you know, you had a fucking gun to your head, you had to choose. Would you choose if you had to pick who lives, would you pick a brain dead person or like a 2-year-old pig?
Brain dead person.
You'd pick a brain dead person. You would keep the brain dead person alive indefinitely over saving the life of the pig.
Yes,
why?
Because the pig is not a human being.
Okay, what is it about humans that give them a higher level of moral consideration over animals?
Because they are a human being, and
that's a
humans
circular answer.
Have capacity for speech, intelligence, and like capacity for stuff like that. So now I have a
hold on. Wait, because your logic there doesn't track. There are animals with the capacity for speech, and there are animals with the capacity for higher rationale. There are animals with the capacity for intelligence. Pigs can be as smart as toddlers. So what's the actual criteria then? What is the thing that's different in humans that grant humans a level? Because it's none of those things, because those things also exist in animals.
Because humans have higher intelligence.
Okay, so it's about having higher intelligence. So what should we do with humans that don't have higher intelligence?
We should not kill them.
Well,
unless they committed a capital crime of some kind.
Wait, why do they get moral consideration? So we're talking about a brain dead person who does not have the capacity for higher intelligence. Why should they get moral consideration over the pig?
Because they have the potential for higher intelligence.
No, they don't. They're brain dead. They don't have the potential for anything.
Become unbrain dead?
No, you can't. Brain death is brain death. There is no coming back from brain death. Do you know how brain death works?
Yes, I am aware how brain death works.
Well, if you were, you wouldn't have said they could come back from brain death. That's a little silly, right?
Okay, if we have future technology that could bring someone back from brain death, would you then value a brain dead person?
We don't know because that's impossible.
Like theoretically.
No, because they're currently brain dead. So if the gun is to the head, let me ask you a question. Why should I value something's potential? Why should potential be the reason for keeping something alive?
Okay, so if you have a lottery ticket that is potentially a winner, are you going to throw it away?
I would say that lottery ticket currently has no value. So like if you throw it away, you throw it away. It has no value right now. Now, if the numbers are pulled and they're your numbers, that lottery ticket now has the capacity to give you a bunch of money. The potential's gone at that point. But until the lottery is drawn, that ticket is worthless to you. I can't go take that lottery ticket to the store and say, hey, dude, this is the potential to have $1 million. So sell me the biggest watch you have. Right? We can't. Why should we treat something like it will be in the future when it is currently not that thing?
Okay, so sorry, I'm recovering from being sick. So if I just start randomly coughing, I apologize. Just bear with me. So if you have this lottery ticket that is potentially a winner, but you don't know whether or not it's a winner, can you justify to me why you would throw it away instead of keeping it?
Well, if it had no value to me, I would throw it away. Like if I don't place value on that lottery ticket, I would throw it away.
But it has potential value.
But it doesn't currently have value. Currently, it has no value, correct?
I mean, technically, there's the value that you use to like make the paper and all of that, but I don't really consider that value. No.
Yeah, it currently has no significant value. It will eventually have value if I win. Then it will it'll absolutely have value then. But until I win, there is no value in this lottery ticket. Now, I can hold on to it because I personally value what the idea of the future money, right? I personally, but if somebody throws away their lottery ticket, I'm not going to look at them like they're crazy because that ticket has no value. But me personally, if I value that ticket then, because it is my ticket, I can keep it. Somebody else who has the ticket can throw their ticket away.
Okay.
Almost like an abortion, you know?
Okay, so to bring this back to abortion, do you value a pig more than a 1-year-old child?
No, I would probably value the 1-year-old child over the pig, yeah.
Okay, so a pig has approximately the same level of sentience as a 3-year-old child.
Uh-huh.
Therefore, since you are valuing the thing with less sentience over the thing with more sentience,
well, I'm not valuing them. I'm not valuing them based on.
It must be the value of the human life.
Yeah, this is where you have a fault. Like there's a fault in your reasoning here. I'm not valuing the pig and the human based on sentience anymore because they're both sentient. I don't place value on sentience based on some sliding scale. Once a creature has the capacity for sentience, they receive moral consideration. So now, because both are sentient, I now have to pick if I'm being like same thing, gun to my head, I have to choose one of them. I now have to choose on a different qualifier. And my different qualifier would probably be that I just have a more species level connection to the human. Right? So I'm going to pick the human. I just have more of a species. If I was a pig, I'd probably choose the pig. Or it could be because it's a baby. It's just like some inherent or like an intuitional thing that like we see a baby person and we want to protect it, right? This is because sentience is no longer the qualifier because they're both sentient. But if it's about a pig and a non-sentient human, I'm choosing the pig every time.
Okay, and why do you value the sentience after? Okay, I'm confused here. Why are you valuing the human life after sentience, but not before sentience?
Because it's a human life before sentient cannot experience. Harm can't happen to it, so it doesn't need moral consideration, right? There's no harm being done to ending something that isn't sentient. Once it is sentient, it can now experience, because sentience is just subjective experience. And once something can experience, it can experience harm. And it can experience negative side, or I guess side effects is a weird word, but it can experience negative, there's a negative experience and a positive experience. And we would just argue that negative experience is harmful, right? And so that's why I would value it then. Now, I'm not sitting here saying kill all non-sentient things, right? I'm just saying if it comes to the decision of a sentient being versus a non-sentient being, I'm going to place all of the moral consideration on the sentient being. So if I have somebody who's pregnant and is sentient and is suffering because they're pregnant and there's a non-sentient being in them, kill the non-sentient being. It's not gonna, there's no harm there. It can't experience. Why would I value something that can't be harmed over something that is like being harmed. That just doesn't make sense to me, like intuitively.
Okay, so if you have a person that is under anesthesia, they cannot experience anything, can you stab them?
So a person under anesthesia is still sentient. Their sentience is just currently paused. They are still a sentient actor, right? What we would say is the reason why we place a principle at 24 weeks when typically sentience. Well, actually, there is an argument to be made that you can stab them, and that's like how doctors perform surgery. But that's besides the point. I
mean like stab them in the throat and kill them.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. Somebody who has gone under anesthesia, typically what we would say is that they've gone under anesthesia with the expressed consent that they will not be harmed while they're under anesthesia. And so you can't break that. That's a consent thing, right? And then if they've gone under anesthesia unconsensually, then you're violating their bodily autonomy by forcing them into this position that they're not sentient. But when we're talking about sentience in a principle for moral consideration, what I say is as soon as you have the capacity for sentience, right, we grant you moral consideration until that capacity is permanently gone. And once the capacity is permanently gone, then you're right back to not moral consideration.
Okay. Okay, so now you're kind of making an argument that, like, if you can't feel pain, then it's okay to kill people. If I understand you correctly.
No, because experience is not just the ability.
Maybe I'm misinterpreting your argument. I'm not sure.
Yeah. No problem. Experience is not just the ability to feel pain. Pain is part of it. Like, pain is an experience, but so is, like, if I'm sitting here and I'm not in pain and I'm just thinking, that is me experiencing. If I'm breathing and I like, experience is a philosophical sort of like a philosophical thing that just means you're I don't want to say it's that you're consciously thinking of anything, because that's consciousness. It's just the ability to take in information from the world around you and have it connect in your brain in some way, shape, or form. So with negative experience, we genuinely would view as bad. Obviously, there's going to be some level of negative experience that we allow in if it like leads to a positive experience. But again, those things need to be consensual. Like the argument is still consent in that regard. But again, the big thing with abortion is it's like valuing a creature that can experience over one that can't. I'm always going to choose the creature that can experience over a creature that can't experience. Like, it's just like, why wouldn't I? Like, it just makes the most sense when we're looking at a way to hold some level of moral principles.
Okay, so you're saying that if you have, okay, would you value an ant, like a singular ant, over a fetus?
Would I value an ant over a fetus? Depends. Yes. Well, it just depends on the factors there, right? Is like, if you're talking about like my personal value judgment here, I would say that a sentient ant probably has more consideration morally than a non-sentient fetus. But if you're asking me like my personal value judgment, I don't value ants in general because they're ants, right? I just don't really care about bugs. But that's again because of some other level of reasoning. It's not about their sentience. So like, I don't, it depends. If somebody, here, let me phrase it this way. If somebody comes up to me and says, Jovan, I have this ant farm that I've loved and cared for years. And then another person comes up to me and goes, Jovan, I want to get an abortion because I don't want to be pregnant anymore. And I want this baby in me out. Like, I don't want it in here anymore. And they're like 15 weeks. I'm going to probably place more value on the ant farm. Right?
Okay. Okay, so we just have different views on the moral value of a fetus.
Well, yeah,
okay.
you have to tell me why a fetus, specifically pre-sentience, justify to me why it should have a level of moral consideration over the sentient pregnant person.
Because it is a human life.
Why should human life, on its own, dictate moral consideration?
Because it is a human life and humans have a higher level of consciousness or intelligence.
Fetuses don't.
They have the potential to do it.
Well, now we're right back to you telling me why I should treat something like what. Let me ask you a question. Should I give a 5-year-old a college diploma because they have the potential to eventually graduate college?
No, because they have not earned it.
They've not. But they have the potential for it.
But they haven't actually done it.
There you go.
It's the same way that if you haven't gotten a pilot's license, you shouldn't be allowed to fly a plane.
Yes, and I believe
it's the same logic.
If you have not actualized your capacity for higher in your argument, at least, if you haven't actualized your potential, if you haven't actually actualized this, you didn't earn it. You haven't earned that. You haven't earned the rights of the same rights as the people who have actualized that potential. Like what? Why wouldn't? Like I'm gonna go to the person that does have that. Why should somebody in your worldview, the thing that separates humans is their higher intelligence. So why should I value a creature that does not have that higher intelligence over a creature that does?
Because it has the potential to do it. Okay, right. Let's go down this route.
Sure.
You are currently alive. You are currently sentient.
Yep.
You were not aborted. Are you
Correct.
happy that you were not aborted?
Absolutely not.
So are you like depressed and suicidal?
All the time. I know I'm not suicidal.
Sorry, what was that?
I'm not suicidal. No, but like
So you are happy that you were not aborted.
No. If you're like, I would have loved to have not had to pay bills. It'd been great.
Okay, that's fair.
Would have loved that. I would have loved to have not had to deal with half the shit I have to deal with. It would have been great. What do you mean? But again, this argument is kind of like a not like if I was aborted, there would be no me. I wouldn't think anything. I'd be aborted. There's no me in that.
Okay, but currently there is a you because you were not aborted.
What would you say to somebody whose mother aborted a because this can be taken in so many ways. There are multiple people who have had abortions and then later on go on to give birth, and the only reason they were able to have that baby in the future is because they aborted a baby in the past and were able to take control of their life. So there are people who only exist because their parents have had abortions.
Okay.
If
they hadn't had the abortion, then they would have a different child.
Yeah, but then the child X wouldn't have existed. Child Y exists. So what would I say? That person would say, yes, I'm happy my parents had an abortion.
Okay, I guess I understand your argument. I'm not sure exactly what point you're trying to make, but okay.
Well, my point is the argument that like, are you happy you weren't aborted doesn't really say anything about like the morality and the moral weight of the decision, right? It's not really that's not an argument at all. That's just like asking me like, am I happy that I'm alive? There are a lot of people that are going to say no to that.
Okay, fine. Okay, I'm... How do I do this? All right, fine. I think we're just going to have to agree to disagree on this.
Why?
You haven't made a compelling... Can convince each other?
Well, I'm not trying to convince you. You're the one who said that you were going to turn me pro-life. You haven't made a compelling argument to why I should value potential. You just keep saying like we should because we should, but like why should we value potential? Provide like a compelling argument about it.
Well, I mean, I already made the lottery ticket argument, and you kind of rejected that.
Well, I didn't reject. Hold on. There's a difference between rejecting the argument and dismantling the argument, right? Those are just two different things. The argument didn't hold logically. It's not that I rejected it. I didn't reject the argument at all. Actually, like I said, I let you make the argument and then I countered it. That's not a rejection of the argument. It's just a counter of it. And even then, you didn't outline to me why potential is important. You just tried to get me to answer the question, right? So why don't, instead of getting me to answer the question, why don't you just outline why potential specifically is important?
Vampire Sally donated $20. I'm pro boot caller.
Okay. All right, fine. I'll make this argument. Okay, so mother is pregnant. Mother does not want the baby, but we wave some magic wand, and the magic wand tells us that this baby has the potential to grow up to become some famous scientist and like cure cancer or something. Should we allow the mother to abort that baby?
Yeah.
Okay, what if the magic wand tells us that this child is definitely going to cure cancer and save the lives of 5 million people a year?
Yeah, it sucks for cancer patients, but yes, she should still be able to enact her bodily autonomy and remove the fetus from her body, yeah.
What about the fetus's bodily autonomy?
The fetus is not an autonomous agent, so why would it have autonomy? What do you think when we say that you have bodily autonomy, we're saying that you're an autonomous agent, right? You're able to live autonomously without the need of like another human's body to keep you alive. The fetus is not autonomous, so why would it have bodily? It also is just it's rights in general are meant for sentient creatures, so it also doesn't get rights because it's not sentient, right? Non-sentient things don't have rights.
Okay, so do you believe that consent to sex is also consent to pregnancy?
No.
Okay, well now we go back to the lottery ticket thing. If I buy a lottery ticket, can I only consent to winning, or do I have to also consent to losing?
You don't consent to losing. You acknowledge the risk of losing. That's not consent. If I get into a car, do I consent to a car accident if I get in one, or do I just understand that I might get into a car accident? I'm just acknowledging that that might happen.
Yes, you.
Okay, so let me. I just want to get your understanding. Is consent to action A all consent to all of the outcomes of said action?
Yes.
Are you sure you want to go with yes? I'm giving you an out. I'm giving you an out right now. You're 100% you want to go with that, with yes.
Yes, because you have the understanding that action A can lead to consequence B, and therefore you have to accept all of the consequences.
Great. So one of the consequences of going on a blind date with someone you don't know is you could potentially be raped. So you agree that consent to the blind date, action A, is consent to the outcome of rape.
Okay, it is acknowledgement to the possibility that you could be raped,
but it's not consent.
If you were going on blind dates, then honestly you should have.
Wait. But it's not consent to it, right? Consent to an action is not consent to the outcomes to every outcome of said action, because that's not how consent works. Consent is not a chain like a link in a chain in a fence. You have to consent to quite literally every action and then every outcome, right? That's just not how consent works. Consent is an agreement. Now, first of all, consent specifically is an agreement between two persons. A fetus I would not classify as a person because it's not sentient. It doesn't have the ability to have a consensual relationship with anybody. So the only person that can or cannot consent in a pregnancy is the pregnant person. And they can consent to whether or not their body is being used by an outside agent. And if they don't want their body used by an outside agent, they boot it.
Well, slight correction there, pregnant woman, because only women can get pregnant.
All right, that was the cue.
Men cannot get pregnant.
That was the cue. Shout out to the person who paid to boot the guest. That was our cue right there, bro. Why is it whenever they're losing an argument, it always comes back to trans people, dude? always goes back to trans people. Why? Why are y'all so obsessed with trans people? What's up, everybody? Thanks for watching this video, and I want to give a special shout out to my YouTube members. Their names are on the side. Membership starts at $2.99 a month, and you get early access to videos, exclusive members-only videos, and access to the Red Mirror Media Discord server. Thank you again to my members, and thanks for watching.